Howdy there, partner. Welcome back. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Garet, and we're your hosts of Modern Gaze. On today's episode, we're talking about a phenomenon called Peter Pan syndrome, where some of us find ourselves resisting the pull of adulthood, clinging to the freedom and carefreeness of our youth. But what happens when it's time to grow up? How do we balance the desire to stay young at heart with the responsibilities that come with maturity? And later in the show, we'll be joined by a very special guest, Angel Serrata from Uplift Fitness. Angel has not only conquered his own Peter Pan syndrome, but now dedicates his life to helping gay men achieve both physical and mental strength. I don't know. When did you grow up? Have you always been a kid young at heart, or do you feel like you are officially adulting today?
Well, let me tell you this, boy. When I was younger, I always used to listen to the Pussycat Dolls in dance class, and I would be like, when I grow up, I want to be famous, I want to be a star, I want to be in movies. Like I was always in the mirror, very excited to grow up, wanted to be an adult, and now I'm an adult, and I'm like, hell no.
I wish I was an obnoxious, young, just fully childish behavior type child.
Really? Obnoxious?
Because I wasn't that. Like, I was such an adult. Everyone would say like, oh, you have such an old soul.
Yeah, they would say the same to me actually. But I feel like when I grew up, actually to answer your question, I feel as though I grew up when I was maybe, I want to say 24.
Okay.
Because I moved to LA and I was on my own. I mean, I still had a little bit of help from my parents, but I was primarily fending for myself, working overseas, living abroad, and building myself. What about you?
I would say I probably was feeling like an adult younger than I actually was an adult. Like I probably felt like I was an adult like when I was like 15, 16 years old.
15, 16?
Yeah, because I thought that I could just create a report and really make a case study to convince my parents to do anything I wanted.
Right.
I felt like I really wanted to grow up fast because I didn't necessarily maybe even love who I was at the time. Like I wanted to change and I was waiting for that change to happen. And I felt like that was going to come with adulthood. Having a delayed adulthood.
Correct.
And what we're kind of going to be chatting about today is this Peter Pan syndrome, where we feel like we are holding on to our youth, or being
young, wild, and free.
Yeah. And then realizing that we're still in it in a later stage of our life, and it's kind of like not a good look. And then cut to you're that 28-year-old guy that doesn't want to grow up.
Because it's hard, girl.
It is hard. It is hard, but
it's a lot of work. It's much easier to just do whatever and give no fucks.
True.
It's much easier to resort to that.
I feel like I have experienced this a little bit, where I saw a lot of my friends on the next stages of their lives, and I started to feel self-conscious about it, and I didn't feel like I was achieving as much. Right. I felt like I was kind of left behind when a lot of people were going on and following their dreams, and I was really just kind of stuck. So what's interesting about this Peter Pan syndrome is that we're like little kids, little boys.
Yeah, little boys.
Basically just trying to find acceptance, trying to find love.
Feel validated, feel seen.
And also figure out who the F we are. At the same time, it's not necessarily a recognized disorder that's been analyzed to a point where it's an actual syndrome. It's more of like a phenomenon where, as a culture in society where we're growing up, where we feel like we don't want to grow up. Yeah. And you're like, I'm going to follow my own path. And but sometimes you can fall off your own path and follow the path of the herd, right? You're like the sheep that's doing what everyone else is doing. You're searching for acceptance. You're getting that really transactional validation. And you get stuck in this process of never really getting to the next stage of your development.
Yeah. And it is scary, but I also think that we could be hindering our growth by not taking ourselves to that next level.
So before I introduce our guest on today's episode, I just want to say thank you again to everyone who listens to the show. Please like, subscribe, and review Modern Gaze on any podcast platform that you may be listening to us on. And join the conversation on Instagram and Threads.
Us gays, we just know how to do stuff.
Well, what about modern gays?
That's easy. Modern gays do everything.
All right, so joining us today is the remarkable Angel Serrata, the force behind Uplift Fitness. Angel's journey from grappling with Peter Pan syndrome to empowering others in our community is nothing short of inspirational. Through his work, he's helping gay men not just achieve their fitness goals, but also build the mental resilience needed to face life's challenges head on. Angel, we're thrilled to have you join us on Modern Gays.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on here and just share my experience with you guys. So I think it's so awesome what you guys are doing. So I cannot wait for anybody who hasn't been able to listen to the podcast to be able to get some value. But for me, like, who am I, right? So my name is Angel Serrata. I'm an online coach and I help gay men in the community. Uplift Fitness is my coaching program, right? Uplift Fitness is, where I'm able to gather people who are wanting to focus on their health, wanting to lose body fat, or just wanting to overall feel more confident with who they are. After working with over 300 gay men, all right, something that I've realized is that we need a lot of support. We need a lot of understanding, and community definitely is important to make sure that other people are able to have common experiences whenever we are struggling, and they are able to come together and being able to understand each other even more, because it's like, oh, like, it's not just me just struggling on this, right? It's also you. Okay, this is normal. When it came to building that, I'd say for me, it was a lot of just sharing my story, where I've been and how I've been able to overcome that, and making them feel heard and seen.
For sure. And I think that's a really good point, which kind of brings us into today's episode, because I found you on Instagram. I was scrolling, doom scrolling as we call it, and I came across your Peter Pan syndrome Instagram reel, which resonated with myself. Maybe just share a little bit about your story with us.
From the very get-go, growing up, in my childhood, my parents weren't together already, so there was already some dysfunctional things going on, and my dad would go out on the weekends and drink, and I ended up spending a lot of time with my grandma, and sometimes my father wouldn't come home for like 2 or 3 days, right? As I got older, I started to realize that I needed to venture out, because being a gay man in Hispanic household definitely wasn't the easiest. I just feel like I needed to leave a place that I did not feel 100% myself. And as I went through life experiences, I wanted to have the commonality of being able to fit in. So I started to do what everybody else would do, right? So I went off to college. I ended up drinking and partying, and then drinking and partying. And then things started to click when all of a sudden all my other friends had graduated, and then I was still here. And then I was like, okay, and then it was just me. And then I had to realize that if I didn't make a change for myself, I was going to freaking graduate from college. So that was that experience. And as I graduated, I was like, what am I going to do with my life, right? And then COVID happened, and COVID was when I had lost both my jobs, and I pretty much was unemployed for a few months. And then I ended up losing my first business to going through a toxic relationship, and this relationship consisted of like drinking and drugs. If I didn't make the change for myself now, and then what was going to be my reality here? And it wasn't just like the first time, but it happened over and over and over again. So pinpointing back to my childhood, even though I didn't have my father figure or my mother figure in my picture, it's like now I was old enough to be able to be those two things, right? Through my father figure and my mother figure. And the more that I was able to realize that, I was like, it's up to me. I have to do this. Not. I can't blame the way that I grew up, right? So I started to realize that if I was able to change myself, and then hopefully I was also able to make an impact, right, on my father. Now me and my father have a better relationship, and I've been kind of teaching him and showing him the ways as well. So it's just, that's kind of where the whole Peter Pan thing came into play. That it wasn't just like resonated with just me, but it was something that I pretty much experienced growing up too.
So many gay men relate where in our childhood, even whatever traumas and individual experiences that we might all have, whether it's a shared experience or a unique experience, or even it was a great environment, we have a delayed adolescence in a way where we don't always get to really be fully authentic and expressive of who we are. And sometimes we try to fit social norms, or we try to fit in with communities of how we can easily make friends. And usually that is kind of following the path of others, which might be, partying and drinking and having fun and like just trying to like fit in and following the behaviors of other people. But that also can be a cycle that kind of continues and continues, and it's hard to break. And you have really showcased like how you could break that. You broke it, and you were able to transition into a leadership position, inspiring other people, including even helping educate and be a leader for your family, which is incredible. Did you feel like going back to that early part in that point of place before you made this transition, what were those key moments where you decided, okay, I want to change? Like what was that?
The breakthrough
or that catalyst that you felt that was it consistent throughout your life? Like, was there multiple moments, or do you think there was one thing?
Was it a lead up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wasn't aware of being able to believe in myself. I wasn't aware that I was capable of more. So that's kind of where my fitness journey kind of stems into play, where if I was able to start changing my body, being able to start building muscle, being able to gain that confidence, and then it was that unlock for me to say, well, if I'm able to do this for myself, and then what more can I do, right? And then through the whole getting fit and feeling confident, that's where the whole partying also amplified that, because I was going out more, I was getting attention, and that kind of had a ripple effect.
What would you say were some of the, I guess, mental hacks or strengths that you found to help you in breaking that cycle?
I'd say, first of all, it's not telling yourself that you're crazy, right, for wanting to make a change when nobody else is wanting that change for themselves. It's really important to make sure you're able to validate for yourself and start being able to dive in deeper into the curiosity of like, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I wanting to do things differently? What am I tired of experiencing, and what am I ready to experience? Because I think over time, right, we have the same experiences over and over and over again, and eventually we're able to know, what we do want and what we don't want, right? So for me, it's like, okay, I know what I've been able to experience. I want to be able to experience something different, and that's all I knew. So being able to just give ourselves that validation and knowing that it's okay if we want something different, something better, right? And then spending time with myself too. So after I ended up breaking away from the drinking, from the drugs, I pretty much isolated myself for 2 months. And I would live with roommates, and my roommates would come out every weekend, right? And I was there like working on my business, and they were still coming in, and I was still working on my business. For me to be able to do that is because I was able to invest my time and my purpose into something greater. And I think that's when we're able to finally break through the syndrome, when we're able to dive in and give our time not to the things that have brought us, temporary fun, but being able to focus on something that is a vision, something that we are more passionate about and more purposeful about. So yeah.
Yes, we just had an episode where we really define authenticity and kind of really try to break it down, and steps in how to define your own authentic life or lifestyle. And where we really felt that conversation ended up was that it really comes down to a feeling, and feeling right. It feels good. Like it just feels good in what you're doing. It feels true to who you are. So in that, when you're thinking about when you're out partying or with your family, or with your, working on your business, or you're in the gym, or whatever you might be putting your time to, if you have that 100% like guttural feeling of feeling good and feeling whole and excited and vibrant and just like energetic, that is like a great way to align and understand where your true authentic self is, like what you really should and want to be doing. And in so much of that experience, especially in finding a way to getting out of a negative pattern, is really to pay much more attention to when you do feel that joy and that happiness and that fulfillment. When you're working with clients and you're dealing with people who are going through their own challenges and setting their own goals, how do you help them find and kind of navigate what those goals are?
I say that every client comes in with their own perspective shifts or mindset, right? Everybody is on different tiers or different levels. And for the clients who are focusing on their fitness journey for the first time, they're feeling unconfident, they're feeling unsure. It takes just a lot of validation of like, hey, you're doing well, you're moving in the right direction. Being able to spend time with reflection And with reflection, being able to pinpoint, all right, what are the things that I'm telling myself on a daily basis that I need to start reframing, because this is who I used to be, and now this is who I'm working to be, right? So it's like having that shift in understanding, appreciating yourself for who you were, and working towards the version that we're wanting to become, and understanding that we're always in a work in progress, and not letting the negative mindset behind things be the reason why we're not able to take that one step forward. So for me, it's just being able to give them that validation, give them tools like reflection, like journaling, for them to be able to have their own conversations, and then them being able to change the narrative on a daily basis.
Right.
I feel like we've spoken about this word validation a lot. And I think for us, especially within the community, a lot of us just want to be seen and we want to be heard and we want to be validated, I guess you could say, because coming out in a lot of our childhood and a lot of our life experiences isn't always easy. And I feel like that repeated cycle of going out and being seen in the community and having your friends and that social setting, it does give you that validation, right? But I think for yourself, and you can elaborate on this a little bit, but I feel as though finding other outlets that are healthy,
that empower you, that
they empower you. Yeah, they're not bad patterns, right? So let's talk through a bit about validation and other ways we can find that within ourselves rather than going through bad patterns.
It's like a high, right? We get addicted to it, and we want to be seen, and we want to be able to fit in, and often that leads us to making the choices that are at least responsible in us being able to prioritize ourselves. And at the back end, we'll leave our health, we'll leave, our work goals or whatever it might be on the back end, just to be able to experience that validation from anybody. I used to be there as well, being able to like go out and like, oh my gosh, like, someone giving that validation, it felt good. But it's not the validation that's going to last forever, right?
You said something really interesting, which was that you can be searching for validation that's temporary. And that's an interesting point, because what the kind of validation we need is the more permanent long-term validation, but we often seek temporary or short-term validation.
The rush.
And that, I think, is a breakthrough for me in the sense of my thinking where, and it can come into a lot of points of our life, but when you're thinking about like going out and partying and drinking and having those kind of like those moments that seem very cyclical because you have to repeat them to get it again, and it is not really building, and it's not starting to stack on top of each other and building more depth and value, when you might be in another circumstance that it has much more of a, I guess, positive reinforcement and offers more value and a dynamic level of skill or awareness. Like you can stack that and you hold on to that much longer. And I think that when you do find something that you love and that you can help build with consistency, and if that journey is for some people fitness, that time that you spend working on yourself and developing your strength and developing your skills only creates a much more stronger, more capable, effort, and effect, rather than having to start back at zero again. So I think with the type of validation that you get can, within that fitness journey, within your mental health and your kind of physical health, it's a validation that sticks with you. I feel like in a gym, it can be quite intimidating, and it can also be a space where you see a lot of people who've already accomplished whatever they are accomplishing, right? You have like maybe there's a
You mean they look good?
They would say like they're like really fit over here, or they look like they know what they're doing, they've been in the gym forever, and you're maybe picking up the weights for the first time. That can be a moment where you don't know what to do or where to go, or you're self-conscious about that experience, that you may just be like, oh, this is not worth it, because it's not giving you that joy. It's not giving you that feeling of rush and happiness. You help people feel more comfortable in the gym and what to do and how to, use some equipment or how to approach it.
How to get started.
So what are your tips, or what's your approach in that kind of early stage of trying something a bit different, focusing on your own physical health and wellness?
I love that, how you broke that down. I think that's so awesome. But yeah, I say that it's definitely going in there for yourself, right? There's going to be so many other fit people in there, but we've all started somewhere, right? And maybe we're comparing our chapter 1 to someone's chapter 10, right? And I say that whenever we look at other people who are, yes, stronger or are bigger than us, that could be also a level of inspiration in knowing that, okay, well, if they could do it and they look like that, and then hopefully I'm also able to do it as well, but in the way of, let me focus on becoming my own better version, right? Let me focus on becoming my best version of myself. So I say, as you're going into the gym and tackling that fear, you're able to start putting in the reps just like it's your first day in school, right? When you go into your first day of school, you don't know the teacher, you don't know the students, you're going in there with lots of anxiety, lots of fear. But as the class progresses, as you start to learn the class, it all just seems super easy to show up, right? I say that also treating the gym like that, with the more they're able to do and the more they're able to learn.
Yeah.
The more it's going to be your new comfortable.
Exactly. And I feel as though that's with anything in life, right? Whether it's the gym, whether you're going to yoga, whether you're starting a new course, whether you're starting a new job. I feel as though if we just put ourselves into situations that does feel uncomfortable and is a bit of a risk, or it's something new, that's where you have those moments of a breakthrough and those moments of growth personally, because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and you're trying something new. When we are going through Peter Pan syndrome and we're breaking through, right? Did you ever find a moment where you wanted to go back or you wanted to retreat back? Or was it really easy for you to just break the cord and move forward?
No, it definitely was a learning experience. As I progressed, I felt like I kept getting better. I ended up going alcohol free maybe like 2 years ago. So I had a 22-month streak. And then I ended up breaking my sobriety back in October. I was in a point where I didn't feel confident with myself. I had gained 30 pounds after my contest prep show. So there was a lot of change going on. I had moved to a new city as well. And I was at a point where I was still battling, even to this day, I'm still battling things at moments. And like you guys said, it's all about like not giving up and continuing to push through and being able to see this as life experience and say, okay, what was I able to learn from this? And that experience within itself helped me become even better.
What are the key tips to like kick people back in action? Like when I fall down, Daniel says whatever he needs to say to me. I might not like it in the moment, but then
I pick him back up
30 minutes later or the next day. I'm like, thank God. Like, I get off my ass and do it.
When we are falling off track, kind of not moving in the right direction, I say it's really important to just take the time to just give yourself some space, right? Being able to really ask yourself, what are the actions that I'm doing and what is causing me to follow through with those actions, and what is like one thing that I could do today to start moving forward, right? What is that one small step that I could do today? What is that small win that I could focus on today that I know is helping me move in the right direction? Because I think that the one thing that holds people back a lot when falling off track is we want to go back to doing all the things that we were doing correctly at the very start, right? But the same way that we lose momentum, the same way we have to be able to slowly build momentum.
Right.
I love that. Like, I love that if you're going 100 miles an hour,
you go back.
And you go back to zero, that doesn't mean you have to go jumping right back to 100 miles an hour. Like you got to just like pick up the momentum again and put one piece in front of the other.
Well, it's like a car. You don't just go to stop at a red light and then go back to 100 kilometers. Yeah, you have to go up.
Get back up. Yeah, I think that's important, and it's a really great point of view just to be like, okay, one thing, get all the pieces back together, start focusing on really specific elements of it, and then you will be back at that 100 miles an hour, if not further.
Yeah. And you can't go back to 100% because then you're just going to get exhausted because you've just gone from 0 to 100 and then you're like, what the actual heck?
I'm over it already. Yeah.
Like I'm tired.
In context of going through a delayed adolescence, feeling that you're stuck or you're in a repeated negative pattern, and you're wanting and you're kind of starting to recognize that you want to break out of that, why is what you do at Uplift a great way to overcome Peter Pan syndrome?
I feel that there's a lot going on, right? There's like life stress, work stress, family stress, friend stress, all of it. And, in that, it's so easy for us to run to the outlets that we've been breaking through, right? Which is like the Peter Pan syndrome, okay? But when you're able to find a different outlet for yourself, where you're able to feel good still, and while also being able to work on yourself, which is going to be the physical fitness. And through that, you're able to start to utilize that outlet more than the other outlets. And through going to the gym and through eating healthier, you start to take care of your body, you start to have better energy. You start to value yourself more and your own self-worth, that it starts to make you think about the things that we are implementing that have been holding us back for so long. And instead of running to those things, you want to avoid those things because now you care about your progress. Now you care about how you feel, right? Now you're able to start becoming more aware with yourself. And I say that's like the biggest thing because a lot of us are always in search of that love, right? Or that affection. But being able to give yourself that love and that affection through being able to take care, again, like your body, right, is something that no one else could give to you except yourself.
I think you said the word love, and that's really, it hit me, because I feel as though whenever something negative happens in our life, and I hate to say it, but whenever something like doesn't go to plan or isn't working out or isn't right, you have two options. I feel as though you can either go back to your patterns and get them back into the same cycle, or you can go, that didn't work. I'm going to push myself and I'm going to make good choices and I'm going to progress forward. And I feel like we're always challenged in life when we have that moment of, this isn't working out. I'm mad. I'm just going to go back to safety. I'm going to go back to what I know. It always comes back to love, because that's what will keep you on track to moving forward.
We got to like love ourselves enough to not give up, right? When we experience a low, it's being able to have the perspective that, yes, we might be experiencing a low. We might be experiencing this hard season, but there's always going to be a spring, right? There's always going to be a high. And I think when we're able to just understand that not everything in life is going to be a straight trajectory all the way up, there's going to be setbacks at some point. And I feel like when we're able to just normalize that it's okay to feel down, that it's okay to not feel good all the time, but knowing that we are going to be able to start working towards feeling good again.
We are creatures of community. Like as introverted as I can be sometimes, like I always do really fall back on my circle, like people that can help support me and build that accountability, as well as just share the love, like just share in that joy and share in that practice. What's great about social media is that people can find someone like you.
Correct.
And start to feel that inspiration, start to feel that sense of community, start to engage and kind of get those lessons and absorb as much information as possible, but then take action. And then you can start working on building the one around you in your physical world too.
Thank you so much, Angel. And as we wrap up today's episode and give a little message to our listeners, what would you say would be the top 3 tips to break this Peter Pan syndrome and push forward?
Yeah, so my top 3 tips, all right, if you are struggling with Peter Pan syndrome, is number 1 is understanding that you have the capability to do so much more. Often the person that's holding us back is ourselves. Right. So start valuing that for yourself. Start telling yourself that you do got this and that you can make this change. Number 2, what are the environments that we are putting ourselves in on a daily basis, on the weekends? Who are the people that we are surrounding ourselves with? And are those supportive groups or environments that we want to put ourselves in, wherein we are trying to break through something better? Right. So we're spending too much time going out. Maybe all our friends like to go out and drink. We have to be able to expand our network with other groups, right? Whether it be work friend groups, fitness groups, other hobbies that you like, right? That we're able to have different outlets to be able to recharge your battery and not feel like you always have to seek escape every weekend, right? And then lastly, it's going to be to make sure you dive into a vision. Where do you want to be a year or 5 years from now? And you can't be afraid to think about this, because sometimes it's easy to be go with the flow type of person. And often we get with go with the flow and we get there and we're just like, why am I here? Right? It's because we haven't taken action. So wouldn't you want to know where you're actually going to be a year from now versus saying like, I'm just going to go with the flow and see what happens? Right? So being able to create an action plan or a vision that you feel excited for, that you're able to wake up every single day and knowing that you're waking up not just for another day of work, but you're working towards the vision and the goal that you're wanting to accomplish.
Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Modern Gaze. A huge thank you to Angel Serrata for joining us and sharing his incredible journey and insights. It's conversations like these that remind us of the power of personal transformation and the importance of supporting one another in our journey towards self-discovery and growth.
We hope today's episode was inspiring you to reflect on your own path and the steps that you can take towards embracing your adulthood without losing the essence of who you are. Growing up doesn't mean giving up on the joy, the wonder, the adventure. It's about integrating those qualities into a life that's as vibrant and fulfilling as you dare to make it. So always remember, keep building the vibrant life you want by owning your authentic self.